travel strategies, travel hacks. How do you travel, go out and live your most awesome life and stay trim at the same time or continue to get trim? Join me for an Eat Like a Bear roundtable discussion on travel strategies. Welcome, the ladies from Eat Like a Bear. We're spilling the tea here today. We've all done it. We've all run off on vacation and gained about 900 pounds. I mean, how many of us have done it over and over again in our lives? We've all done it. It's one thing if we plan it and we're okay with it. But how many of us gain the weight, come back, and end up off track for months? And we're discussing strategies to avoid these things, strategies perhaps even to trim down if that's your choice on vacation, but more importantly, how to get back and get on track. So we have two main things that we're talking about today. One is the level of strictness that any of us might choose as we go on vacation, the things that we have to consider if we're going to be super strict or very lenient, but also the thing that probably isn't discussed enough is the exit strategy. The exit from the vacation and back to regular life so you don't continue your vacation eating like all of us are going to want to do. That's just one of those universal things and it probably never goes away. So we all need an exit strategy in our pocket and we need to make that strategy in advance. So today we're going to just have a kind of a fun little discussion about our vacations. The things that we maybe did or didn't do that we may look back on and learn about. I welcome all the ladies here today for this discussion. So let me just say that on this YouTube channel, there's at least one video where I vlogged a vacation where I was really pretty strict. And you can see what I do in that. And it was a 9-day trip, I think, and using breakfast room food plus a salad in most cases. And every single day I show the food. And it was a really great vacation. It was fabulous. And it just shows you can totally be strict. And we can discuss strategies for being strict on vacation. But I direct you to that. And as an example of you can be strict. And then when you're strict, there's really almost no exit strategy. There really isn't any because you're just going back home and continuing to eat the way that you want. So in that case of real strictness, the exit strategy is kind of irrelevant or moot, but it's all the other variations that I'm curious to hear about. And that is where the exit strategy becomes particularly important. Who feels inspired to lead our discussion here today with the very first story? Teresa is just getting back and she has a report for us that I think is some variation on that strictness theme.
I just got back from a 4-day trip to San Antonio with my daughter. One of the things that I went into this saying I'm going to be super strict because Jackie, who's going to talk in a bit, was going to tell us how she was in the zone on her cruise and didn't deviate. And that was so motivating. And I was going to replicate what Jackie did. And so that was my plan. Well, the best laid plans, that didn't turn out the way it ended up. It didn't end up too bad in that I stuck really mostly to one meal, but there were some things in that meal that weren't great. And then there were some extras. And so I didn't stick to my plan. And when I got home, I pretty much think that the best thing for me to do when I get home is to go right back to my one meal, 3-day challenge kind of thing, get right back into it. But there's one thing I think you have to do on your trip that lets you do that, or have to not do on your trip that lets you do that. But then while you're on the trip, there are some things that are food noise that you should ignore. And this came from my daughter. We were trying to figure out where to go to dinner the first night. And as we're driving to the hotel, she said, well, there's a McDonald's and there's a Chick-fil-A, but we can get that at home. And so I wasn't letting everything, throw caution to the wind that I could eat whatever. If it's something that I can get anytime, why am I eating that on my trip? If it's something I can get next time, if I'm making this trip again, I don't need to eat that either. The things that are harder for me are two things. One is the stuff that seems like a one-time opportunity. I'm in Hawaii. I'm not going to be here again or whatever. I wasn't in Hawaii, but a one-time opportunity is harder to resist. And the other thing that's hard for me to resist is free stuff. Our hotels gave us 3 free appetizer and 2 free adult drinks at various restaurants. And I found it really hard to not take advantage of the free stuff. So we had some free stuff, and there weren't too many one-time opportunities though, because a lot of the restaurant food, even if you're on vacation, is the same as what you could get at home. If I'm not going to eat that at home, why do I eat it on the trip other than I'm just being lazy and whatever the case may be. So this thing that I've always said, I know what that food tastes like. I've had it before. I'll have an opportunity to have it again. I'm choosing not to have it now. That helps me to not have some stuff on the trip. But then from the exit strategy, the other thing you can't do is you can't buy stuff to bring home, because then when you bring it home, you're eating it. I don't want to talk about specific foods, but there were things that's like, oh, well, look, they have a deal where if you buy extra, it's cheaper. So we'll just get more. And then when you get home, you have all this vacation food that you still feel like you have to eat because you're not going to throw it out. So if I'm going to come back and really get back on my one meal a day, don't bring food home with you. Not a good plan.
That's a really good point, to really have that line that you're drawing. And for sure. Okay, so Teresa, you got back how many days ago?
I got back Sunday. So it's been about a week and a half.
And then on your first full day back, were you right on it and back doing your one meal?
No, because we bought some of that stuff. Well, no, let me take a step back. I did do the one meal, but that's why I learned this lesson of don't buy the extra stuff. The funny thing was, this place we were in, my daughter said, oh, look, they have a location near us. And after the fact, I thought, well, if they have a location near us, we shouldn't have bought anything there at all, because we can always get that. So I was back to one meal, and it probably took 2 days to get back where I was feeling like I was in the zone again.
Well, Teresa, that's great. And congratulations. You're giving this story that's like the imperfect story. But the key part of this story is you've just said, we brought that stuff home, and that's how I learned that this is one of my rules for travel. So I think that's amazing. And that's exactly what we all need to be doing, is finding all those little things that we do that are the things that really keep us from exiting or whatever the issue is. So welcome back.
Thank you.
So who has another little story nugget for us? Ellen, how you doing?
For me personally, absolutely black and white. If I know I'm going on a trip and I really strictly adhere to my one meal a day, low carbohydrate, no gluten, no sugar, just absolutely strictly before I go on the trip. And if I do that, I'm usually able to continue it during the trip. And as most everybody knows, I did a lot of travel. There was a lot going on in my life in the last few months. My daughter got married. Then she graduated medical school. So we went to Virginia for the wedding. We went to Virginia for graduation from medical school. Then we moved her to Maine. Then I went to Tampa by myself for 4 days. Then my husband and I went on vacation, and then I went to visit my daughter in Maine. And I was able to maintain my food plan during all those visits because I was really strict leading up to the visits or the vacations. And so I was able to stay relatively in the zone. Now, the last trip when I went up to Maine to see my daughter and help her get settled in, I did do one of the Amanda tricks and waited till the very last day. And we went out for Thai food. And I looked at the menu ahead of time, and I picked exactly what I was going to have, it was my one meal. We went at lunchtime because that's when I eat. And we went at lunchtime to accommodate me so that I could do my one meal. And they had a type of noodle that was low carb. I couldn't believe it. So I was able to stay on plan in the program, even though I had kind of planned to deviate a little bit, but I didn't deviate. So I got home, stayed in the zone. Everything was going really well until my birthday came along, and we went on a day trip, and I didn't know where we were going to eat because we went out of town. I wasn't sure what restaurant we were going to. I wasn't sure what we were going to eat. So we went someplace. I hadn't planned it. I made good choices, but there were sauces and things, and so I didn't really know exactly what was in the stuff, and I react to MSG and gluten and stuff, and there might have been some sugar in one of the sauces. So I ate a little more than I should have, and then that I had planned to. And so the food noise started again. And when I'm in the zone, I don't have food noise. For example, I posted last night, I was amazed. I went out with a group of people last night, and they all ate and drank alcohol, and I sat there drinking water, and I was perfectly happy. I wasn't tempted. I didn't want anything, and it felt great. But back to my birthday, Teresa mentioned free stuff. So I got all these emails from different places that wanted to give me free stuff for my birthday. So I had to have a special coffee at one place, which involved having cream when it's not in my 1 hour, which always throws me off. Even though it's a small thing, it's just something I've learned I can't do. And then there was something else. So my birthday was a little bit of a mess, but I got the key, the exit strategy for me, the strategy that's the most important is getting right back on. Because if I let it go a day, if I let it go 2 days, that turns into a week, that turns into a month, that turns into a year sometimes. And so immediately getting back on helps to prevent that. And I do that by getting strict again. So I guess I was going to say there's no magic in that, but actually there's magic in that. And so I'm in a good place. I'm feeling great and happy, and it's all good.
That's amazing, Ellen. And on food noise comment about how then the food noise started again. So what Ellen's talking about is just think about when you maybe have the taste of the birthday cake or whatever it is, and then you just want more and you're just thinking about it, or whatever the food is, or the whole category of food, because you open that little door to it. And so your brain starts working on it. And if you're at zero, the beauty is that at zero, you're just a zero. And so you're not fighting with yourself about the second bite or whatever it is. And so that when we talk about food noise and reducing the food noise or staying in the zone, it's really about being at zero, that so many of us are just finding a lot easier. And let me just comment, because we're going to have Lori Beth Twentyman on here hopefully in the next month or so. And she's been in maintenance for 2 or 3 years or a while. And she goes on trips. And she just came back from a trip and gained 6 pounds. And she's like, well, and then I'm going to grind it off, basically. And so that's what she does. She'll just go, she's drinking the wine, whatever the case, and then just comes home and handles it. And I'm kind of amazed by that. And so we'll have to just delve into that pretty deeply. And so maybe she experiences the whole food noise thing a little bit differently than some of us. And we all have to kind of figure out, weighing the cost and benefits of that one bite. Is it even worth the next bite or whatever? So it's for all of us to decide. Clearly, Lori Beth has a different calculus than we have somehow, and that's fine. So yeah.
I think I'll have her calculus actually when I get to maintenance, but I can't do that until I get to maintenance. I mean, I feel like I even said that to myself. It'd be okay if I got back and I'd gained a few pounds if I was in maintenance, because then I know what to do. I just eat like a bear, like I'm supposed to, and it'll grind off, like she said. But it's a different situation when you're trying to get back on the train to lose 50 pounds that you're still trying to lose.
Yeah, it still takes the focus and the work to get back and do it. And yes. I know in my life that is, clearly I wasn't very good at that. So I'll be curious to see how Lori Beth has handled it. And for me, I could, if I let loose to the degree that maybe she's not letting loose like I would let loose. I don't know. I would, the number of pounds scares me just a little bit. So, okay. Well, who's got another story nugget for us?
A little earlier that last month I went to Legoland. My daughter, her husband, and my only grandson. Well, Gary has one, but we each have one. They live in Washington, and so they were coming to do like Legoland and Universal Studios and something else. And she said, "This is our itinerary. Pick a day if you want to come see us." And so I did, and I chose Legoland because my grandson is kind of on the spectrum and so I knew that if I picked the day that he would be the most engaged in what they were doing, that would be the best for me to be with him. Now, I haven't seen him in person since before COVID, in fact, 2019, I think, and he's 8 now. So I was just ecstatic to see him and give him a hug, and he gave me a hug, which was great. And so when I got to Legoland, so there's 2 hotels and then the entrance into Legoland, and they were in one of those hotels. So it's kind of like they're out just outside the entrance, but they are right there. And so I parked and she came over and found me and at the entrance, and we went in, and they were doing, it was probably about 10:30 or so by the time I got there. And so they had already been out in the park because they get to go early when they stay in these hotels. So they had already kind of been out doing stuff. And then we went in together and did some other things. And then he was ready to like take a break and decompress and go back to their hotel room, which they did. And it was probably about lunchtime by then. And so they had like snacky items in their little fridge in the hotel room, but mostly like meat and like lunch meat. And I mean, he was eating jelly beans and stuff like that. But we just sat in their hotel room and everybody just kind of decompressed and, you know, kind of waited for him to be ready to go again. And so after we sat there for a little bit, I said, well, I had accidentally gotten the ticket to go to the aquarium, which they didn't have a ticket for. So I said, look, I'm just going to go to the aquarium because I spent money for that and it's really expensive. I said, I'm just going to go through the aquarium and then I'm just going to go grab something to eat because they didn't seem at all inclined to have an actual meal. And I had looked at everything before I went. I looked at all the little places that you could eat and what they had and everything. So I kind of had one in my mind that I thought would be better for me, but then I didn't know, would it be better for him or not, you know? So I just went and did my thing. They were still in the hotel room decompressing. I went off. I went through the aquarium pretty quickly because it's really geared for kids. And then I went to the little place that I had picked in my mind. And I had this, I think it was called Thai chicken stir fry or something. And of course, it came on a bed of rice. And I just said, could you just give me that with no rice? And he said, well, would you like it on spinach? And I said, oh, absolutely. So they just put it on a bed of spinach. And then I also bought this little prepackaged salad on the side and also some almonds because I knew that there probably wasn't going to be like enough protein in that, you know, meal, which was true. And so I just sat and by myself and ate my little salad and my little chicken thing and quite a few of the almonds, but not the whole package, and put the rest away in my purse thinking, well, you know, I might need that later. And went back, and by then they were in the pool. And so I changed. I had brought my swimming stuff and I changed into my swimsuit and spent the next probably 2 hours in this little shallow swimming pool because it's made really for kids, building. I was the lady building the Lego because they have floating Lego blocks in the pool. So I'm the lady building the little floating Lego thing. And all the kids are like, here, take this one and put it on your, you know, and I made this little floating moat, a little castle thing. And just played for like over 2 hours in the pool with them. And then we ended up going back to the hotel room again and decompressing for another little bit. And again, still, they weren't interested in a meal or anything like that. I don't know how they sustained themselves, to be honest, but that they're just with him, they just go with the flow kind of thing. So we went back and kind of decompressed and everybody changed clothes and got dry and everything. And then he was ready to go again. So we went back out and we did some rides. We went on a roller coaster together. We just had a blast and did all these things. And the park closes at 8. Now, I had made the decision, it's about a 3-hour drive for me to this place. And I thought, I don't want to drive back in the dark by myself. And I wanted to not be under the pressure to leave at any certain time. I just wanted to be there with him as long as I could be with them. And so I had gotten an Airbnb kind of at the last minute. It was like 15 minutes from the park. And so we literally shut down the park. It closes at 8. And he was on that last ride at 8 o'clock with my daughter. And she looked at her husband and said, I think you better go see if you can find some sandwiches or something, because they really hadn't eaten anything. And so I just gave everybody a hug, and we're like, I'm with my son-in-law and we were like hoofing it across the park. Like he's tall and got long legs. And I'm like, keeping up with him. And we just buzzed across the whole thing. And he's looking everywhere for anything that has food, and they're all closed. I don't even know what they ate that night, but I went from there. I got in my car. I went to the Airbnb, let myself in. And you know how Airbnbs, they usually have like things for you. And so they had crackers and little gummy things. And they had, thank goodness, cold LaCroix and water. And so I was able to just kind of go no to because I really was still sort of hungry. And so I was able to say no to the to the rest of the stuff. I got my LaCroix. I probably logged in and went through all the things in the den, and I took a bath. I was tired. I was ready for bed, and I just went to sleep and got up early the next morning and came home. And so, and right back to, kind of normal. But that really, I'll tell you, was probably the first time in 3 years that I had made the decision to stay with my food plan as close as I could to what I normally eat, and not deviate and not eat special things and not do this and not do that. And I did eat a lot of almonds. I will say I ate all my other almonds later, a little bit later, but that was really the only deviation. Now, I was thinking about the word strict. Like, I really wish there was a different word for that, because it seems negative. But for me, being strict is a positive thing. It helps my mind, my body, and my soul when I stick to this. Like, nothing else in my life has ever felt this way before. So when, like yesterday, when I did my birthday thing, that was my mindset was, I want to feel good. I don't want to feel bad. And I know if I eat this or that, which I've done in the last 3 years, I'm going to feel bad. I'm going to have an after effect. I'm going to have a headache. I'm going to feel like crap. I'm going to ache the next day or 2 or 3. And who knows how long it's going to really take me to get kind of right again, to right myself and get going again. And I didn't want to take that chance. So for me, I'm going to really look forward now to any travel that happens and doing my best to stay strict. And if you come up with another word, I want it. But it
disciplined.
What's that?
Say disciplined.
Yeah. Staying in the zone, Bronwyn, that's what I need to do, is I need to reframe that for myself, I think, because to me, it is much more freedom to be in the zone or strict than it is to be out of it. And to think that we're freer when we allow ourselves to eat, and drink whatever we want is it's like a different, like, I really need to change my mind about those things. And I really have. So that was my experience with really what I considered successful travel. And it was only one day and overnight and all that, but it showed me that I can do this, my birthday was another example of, I can do this. I can live this way, not just eat this way.
Yeah. So in Virginia, this key point of you handled your own food situation. So many of us will just throw in with the whole family and that we've all got to do the same thing or whatever it is. This is such a great example of how that can really get you into trouble. I mean, thank goodness you had that plan and that you just handled it yourself. That's great.
It worked out so good in the scheme of the day. They didn't think anything of it really, at all. And it just worked out so well for me. And I think now I look back on that, I'm like, if I had waited to have a quote meal with them, it would never have happened. And I'm so glad that I was able to do that. And it just worked out perfectly. We had such a good day. It was such a fun day.
Well, let me also just highlight that key point in your story about how you're hightailing it across the parking lot. I mean, that's amazing. Just say just a sentence or two about how possible that might have been 3 years ago.
Yeah, well, a couple of things about that. First of all, the weight. I wouldn't have been able to do that with the weight that I was 3 years ago. But also, I've had my second hip replacement in that span of 3 years, actually 2 years ago. I marvel at the fact that I could walk, let alone hoof it, across the parking lot with this tall dude, trying to keep up. I mean, I'm 5'7", but my legs are kind of short, and I've never been a fast walker in terms of being able to go really fast with people. So it was incredible. It was a fabulous feeling, not to mention the fact that I walked all day long. I don't even know how long. I should have tracked it on an app or something. I have no idea how much I had walked already at that point in the day, and still able to hoof it back to my truck. So It was fabulous.
Very good. Tina is out in our live studio audience and has a question. We're going to get to your question, Tina. We're going to go through the other stories, and then we're going to round this out by coaching Tina through her upcoming trip. So who else has a story for us?
I want to say this to Virginia first. I think of being in the zone or being strict. I don't think of it as that. I think of it as being in the groove because I equate it to what I feel when I play music with other people, and it's an other dimension kind of thing. So instead of feeling strict and disciplined, I'm feeling groovy, you know? And so that's another way to look at it because if and when you get in the zone or in the groove, you will be in a magical place, as Ellen has said many times. And speaking of Ellen, she was the inspiration for me when I embarked on a 10-day driving from Connecticut to Florida and a cruise to the Bahamas in that 10-day span. And my husband and I did this. He's very supportive. He eats RBS with me and he eats keto and he does not eat sugar. We don't drink. We just don't. We just are not people who drink. And so we don't have that kind of thing going on. But Ellen had just taken 3 or 4 trips in a row and had stayed in the groove and in that time. And I was very inspired by that because what one person has done, another person can do. So I took Ellen with me on that trip. She was in my back pocket somewhere. And I don't know if you got the benefit of that cruise, but you were there, Ellen. Yeah. So anyway, the driving was just fine because on the way down, we stopped at grocery stores and we did a quick RBS and we ate in the car in the shade and that kind of thing. And we took a lot of different flavored seltzers and waters and we had coffee. And that was just having all these different flavored seltzers was really a ticket for me. And I had already just come off of 2 months of being in the zone, in the groove, whatever you want to call it. And I wasn't giving that up for anything. And like Ellen described, there just is no food noise when you're really socked into that. And and I got there by a short-term goal that I made that really excited me. And I was able to focus on that. And then when we embarked on our trip, I was so socked into being in that magical place that I didn't want to give that up. And so that was important. And then when we got to the cruise and it was a family reunion cruise, so my focus changed at that point to focus on my family. I'm not a cruise person, and I probably will never go on another cruise, but I really wanted to be with my family, who some of I had not seen in at least 6 to 10 years, something like that. In some cases, 20 years. And so that's why I went. And and by the time we got to the cruise, I understood what our schedule would be. So we were going to be together at 8 p.m. every night for dinner in the formal dining room, which was way later than when I wanted to eat my RBS, and I wasn't sure that I could actually get an RBS at that formal dining room. I had already talked with the group about just going and not eating, and they thought that was really screwball. And why would you even go? Just don't go. So I was already hearing resistance about that idea. So, in order to be with my family, I elected to do a 2 meal a day model. And I found it very easy to do that because lots of free food. Teresa, lots of free food. And it was all the food that I could eat. And I was like so grateful to have all these choices that other people cooked. And all I had to do was go up to the table and eat it. And I thought, wow, that is great. And because I was focusing on my family, I didn't feel the need. And I'd already decided to do 2 meals a day. I didn't feel the need to shovel in the food at all. I just ate very slowly, and was really focusing in on the people that I was eating with. And I remember taking a bite with a fork, and it was like so slowly to come up to my mouth. And then I would just chew, and we would have conversation, and I would sort of play with the food with my fork. And then it was kind of an incredible experience because I was so used to just wolfing food down. I didn't do that. And then the dinner, at the formal dinner, that was interesting too, because the waiters put pressure on us to have every component of the dinner. And when they would ask me what I chose for dessert of like 3 or 4 choices, and I would say no dessert. And they go, "What? No dessert?" And so, but I just kept repeating it, and then I would just say no thanks, and I didn't offer any explanation. And then he would move on to the next person. And my family got used to my way of eating because, I was eating 2 meals a day. I was having a lot of salad at the around 1 or 2, and then eating at 8. The end result is that I had no sugar, no desserts, zero, zero. I didn't have any alcohol, even though there were thousands of people on that boat that were actually, you're supposed to call it a ship. The captain gets really upset when you call it a boat. And there were thousands of people just going mad for alcohol and sugar. I mean, everywhere around me. I was fascinated by this behavior. And I really was. But I wasn't having food noise because I was still in the groove and feeling groovy, man. And I had the added bonus of having people cook for me, and so that was like heaven to me. And we got off the ship and went right back into 1 meal a day, and we still had lots of flavored seltzer, although a lot of it exploded in the car when it was in the full sun. So that's a tip. Don't leave cans of seltzer in your car in the full sun for a few days because it will explode. But it worked out okay. So, and when I got home, of course, I had not weighed, and it was just more important for me to be in the zone than to lose weight, and I did do that. I accomplished that. I was still in the zone when I got back. I had not gained any. I weighed myself the morning after I got back, and it was up 0.2 pounds, so that was kind of irrelevant, and just went right back into it. And what I did have a little trouble with after that point is I didn't set another short-term goal right away because I was just so infatuated with this be in the zone thing. And I think that was a little bit of a misjudgment on my part because, something can knock you off, like a little heat wave or something like that. It can knock you a little bit. And so having a short-term goal that excites you is or something else to focus on like your family or whatever. It's focus for me when you're traveling. And I think that that's very important. I think that's basically it.
Jackie, what you're suggesting to people is that so not only handling the vacation in a way that allows you to kind of transition back home, but have a short-term goal identified. Maybe before the cruise, if you'd said this pant size or whatever the case, that's what I'm going to do after. And so you hit the ground running with that new short-term goal. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I did just set another short-term goal for myself. It's actually a twofold goal. And I did that a couple of days ago. And because some food noise was creeping in, and I was not happy about that. And so since I did that, I'm able to just shoo that food noise away. It sort of tries every now and then, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, buzz off. I got goals." You know? And it obeys. It goes flying off. And I'm like, "That is so cool."
Yeah, I think it always tries to creep back in, but you're right. If you just can keep a boundary, it just makes it easier because it's like you kind of brush it off. Yeah, for sure. For
And who
sure.
doesn't want to be groovy?
Exactly. Right. 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 Okay. Charlotte is saying that maybe we should have the cards at the at going on the cruise and have the card to give to the waiter that says something about, no carbs or replace the noodles with cabbage or whatever. Charlotte suggests that the card could say, "Hi, I'm a Century Bear in training. I eat 1 meal a day and do not eat added carbs or sugar. Please help me by honoring the decisions I make for my health." To be like, Century Bear, what the heck? What's that? All right, good, good, good. But I think like the card, all of that too represents the point that you have a plan in going and having that meal. And so we should all be thinking through, even if we don't have an actual card, what the instructions would be and what your plan is in implementing.
Well, you should add on to that card because all of these people that serve us on cruises, they want tips. They really try hard to get extra tips other than what you're normally charged for tips. And if you were to put something on that card, I will tip you extra if you do blah, 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 blah. I think that would be extremely effective on a cruise ship.
Okay, cool. I've never been on a cruise, so I don't even know the system. Don't know it at all. So who's got another story for us? Georgia, what do you got for us?
Well, I'm going to throw one word that I use quite frequently is, we're going to have challenges in front of us. When we go out to eat or we're on a trip, we go like, oh, this is going to be challenging. This is, I'm going into a restaurant and it's going to be a challenge. You need to go, this is going to be a challenge. Look at it, take that word and look at it differently. I challenge myself to look at that menu and I'm going to find what I need to be successful. This isn't a challenge. This is a challenge. And I will lay you money, any waiter that you ask. I've repeatedly, different restaurants, I said, I want a salad that's going to be this big and I want this on it and I can't have this and I can't have that. What can you do to take care of me? And I've had repeatedly them bring out an RBS and I only get charged for a regular salad. These waiters will go out of their way to try to take care of you. All you have to do is ask. And 9 times out of 10, they will take care of you. But we can't look at it as a challenge. We need to look at it as a challenge. If we can turn that around, it's mindset. It's mindset. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you so much, Georgia. And now I have a story I want to tell you guys inspired by Georgia's and the mindset and just flipping the switch on that. So I was up on a hike yesterday when there was a little dust up on Facebook, a little like negativity thing. Some of you saw it. And in that moment, like I'm there on like up on the high elevations with 2 bars and I'm responding. I got bit by a fire ant. And that hurts. That really hurts. And then I thought, oh my gosh, what is this a sign of? Like I'm up here and I just got bit by a fire ant. And so I actually Googled, what is the symbolism of a fire ant? Because I'm thinking the symbolism is like my house is on fire or whatever. And it kind of felt like it was at the time. And I Googled it. And you know what it said? The symbol is, it's that you're a warrior. And I was like, oh. And so I just got up. I'm a warrior. And it totally turned it around. Totally, 100%. So anyway, yes, we've got to do that. Judy, what story do you have for us today?
As I've listened to all of you, it has dawned on me that my trip started before my trip started. I don't remember exactly what happened, but something sent me tumbling out of the zone. That's the best way I can say it. The trip was a special event. I wanted to see some relatives without going to a funeral. I went to see people and I told them that. I said, I don't want us to have to go to a funeral during this trip. And it was a long driving trip for me. And somewhere along the line, I just kind of sort of went, I'll just go with the flow, whatever is around. So definitely planning was not real good when it came to food. I was in 3 different households, stayed in 3 different places on this trip. And I didn't have the gumption or the courage or the want to ask for what I knew I should be eating. I ate what they had available. And so it was like I totally gave up any control. You know what I gave up? I gave up having to make decisions. And it was a vacation. Let's be free about that. As far as exit plans, after we get finished with all of this today, I still need to go to the store and get the things that I know that I need to have in the house to eat and get back into the groove. This trip taught me a bunch of things. It taught me that I was stronger than I thought that I was at this point in my life. And it taught me that, yeah, you need a little bit of discipline in your life, even though it is so much fun saying, I don't know when I'm going. I don't know where I'm going. I just know I'm going. That's just not something that we've been raised, especially as women, to be able to do. And y'all, it was fun. And there were times when I didn't know not only what state of mind I was in, but what state of the union I was in. And the faith following a little map, or somebody in that little map saying, in 203 miles, turn left. And then you don't hear from them again, and you're wondering, have they forgotten me? It was a growth experience in more ways than weight. And I'm ready to do it again. So I really had forgotten about how I had gotten out of the groove before I left. And then I realized that I didn't have an exit plan, and that those things are important to get back into the groove.
I feel like we need an entrance plan too, based on that and what Ellen said earlier, and your comment about you have to go to the store. I thought part of the entrance plan is having something ready to eat when you get home, so you may, or have a grocery order ready to go. Because if you don't have the stuff in the house to make your salad or whatever healthy meal, you're going to maybe be extending that vacation thinking.
Yeah.
So now I feel like entrance plan and exit plan.
Well, and also here's a key strategy: show up for one of these travel videos. And Judy's coming back home, and now she's told us. And so we've got our eye on you, Judy. It's time to go to the store, girl.
Well, I can tell just by looking at me how puffy I am right now. I don't look as beautiful as I did before I left.
I think you look just as beautiful.
I think so too, but also there's a lot of puffiness out there right now. I don't know how the weather is where you are, but it's really hot here. Well, all right, Judy, welcome back. And we will be watching your relaunch and all of that, and discussing this entrance, like the reentry plan. Yeah. So there's the exit and reentry into life and into home. And I love that. Have stuff at your house. That seems obvious now that Teresa has told us. It would have been
gross at my house after 2 weeks.
A freezer? How about a freezer, Judy? You could have some broccoli in there.
Thrown a head of lettuce in the freezer.
Frozen broccoli.
Okay. See, she's always got to come back.
I do.
What if when you get home, your plan is, I know this place that will make me exactly what I need, and I'm going to have that while I'm on my way to go shopping or whatever. So you have something else that if you're tired and you don't want to, you'll have something that's not going to lead you astray.
You definitely need a reentry plan. Mm-hmm. Definitely.
I hadn't even thought about that. We are so remote that pretty much anytime we're coming home, we're going to have to stop at a grocery store. I just always restock on the way home. I hadn't even considered that people don't.
But I really like what Georgia said, because, and I've been thinking about this a little bit too. I like a challenge. I really do like a challenge. And I think we could flex our challenge muscles and practice. Like we could just not look at a menu ahead of time and go to a restaurant and ask for what we want. Don't even look at the menu. I do that. I do what Georgia says. We did it the other day. We walked into a restaurant and I didn't even look at the menu. And I said, I want a really big salad with blue cheese dressing on the side, and I want a bacon cheeseburger. Can you do that for me? And she did that for me. And she brought me out a bowl like yay big, filled with salad. And I was like, wow. And I didn't care what it cost. We've been there a couple of times now, and she knows us. And she goes, "You want the salad?" "Yes." You know, yeah. And she says, "That looks so good. I'm going to have that today."
Nice. That is such a great idea. I've frankly never even thought about approaching a restaurant like that. But that's a good example of a good day strategy. When you're feeling good and strong and you're going out to just explore the world and go order off, on the, what would it be called? The special menu, or the, what is the word for unpublished menu?
You
Surprise.
just tell the waitress or waiter what you want and
Yeah.
let them figure it out. It's fantastic.
The
George
secret
is right.
menu.
They know the menu.
Okay. Okay,
It's
cool.
because it's all because we're special.
That's right.
Very good. Okay. Any other stories before we figure out what to recommend for a Hawaiian vacation? Anna Sewell, what you got?
Just one thing. When I was younger and we would travel and I would just be eating and having this and having that, and then all the things that are in the car and everything else, I felt gross. I've always felt yucky. I didn't feel great. I felt like puffy. My digestion wasn't good, all of that stuff. And one thing I did find, well, when we went to Florida in 21, I found that when the flights that I had been fasted went great, and the one where I hadn't been, I felt queasy and everything. And the same thing, like when I went on a bus trip with my son, I didn't eat snacks and things on that bus, and I felt so much better. And then also just to think about the strengths of traveling. The strengths of traveling are that you move more and you're having fun, you're seeing beautiful things, you're spending time with people. That's what I want to focus on, because most of the time, a lot of the foods that I used to eat, they're going to make me feel horrible. And I don't want to feel horrible. I want to feel great, and I want to be in the groove. I want to have that feeling of lightness, that I can do anything. That's how I do it, is by staying on plan. And if I can't, then don't eat. It's just easier.
I totally find that, especially with air travel, is just keeping it really simple is my approach for that, for sure. Eat before any of it, take care of business, and then the flight itself and all that travel, just water, coffee, or whatever.
Yeah. And there actually are studies that say jet lag, if you wait until you get where you're going and then eat at your regular time, you have less jet lag.
Well, cool.
Yeah,
cool.
I want to say something about a comment Jackie made, which was, what one person can do, someone else can do. Now, I've never done any kind of extended fasting in 3 years. I don't really have any plan to do it. But what I know, and I know this with every fiber of my being, is that if I ever need to, I can just not eat. Like what you were talking about, Anna. I could just not eat, and I would live through it, and I would be okay. Now I would have to, maybe have my own strategy of what that would mean, but still, just the power of how many people I see and hear every day on the Den, on Facebook, who do extended fasting and have no problems with not eating. I know that I could. So traveling, I could have done the whole Legoland day and not eaten, and I would have been just fine. Now, would I succumb at the Airbnb to the crackers? Probably. But I know I can do it just because all of you guys have done it. And that's part of the power I take with me. I know we all joke about taking each other Brady Bunch style on our shoulders. This is how I imagine whenever I go anywhere, you all are sitting right there in your little boxes.
Can I just comment? It's a great segue. One of the things I forgot to say was an exit entry strategy. I'm so glad Virginia reminded me about this. When I come back, sometimes I plan just to fast that day, because I know then there are no choices to make, no plans. I have plenty of time to get to the grocery and get what I need for the following day. And it's just a clean way for me to start. So thank you for reminding me, Virginia, because it's been very helpful for me to do that.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I've done that before where I feel like, you're tired, you're kind of just stressed for various reasons in that travel. And then that day, sometimes it's my last travel day. Like if I'm flying, I might decide to just fast and just handle it that way and just come home fasted. And it just kind of resets me. It keeps me a little bit more centered and then just totally on point when I'm at home. So I think that's definitely can be a good thing. Just to reset yourself a little bit. Yeah.
It just sounds like that now I need to plan another trip and try out some of these suggestions.
Good point. I think we all need to travel all over the place and try out all these suggestions. For the sake of wisdom for the community, we need to go out and figure what wisdom to bring back is what we need to do.
Yeah, that's quality control.
Yes.
Well, and I feel like in March of next year, we should be planning our exit strategies because so many people will be traveling next year in April, early April.
Yes, they will.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Well, and so speaking of great travel visions, so we have Tina headed to Hawaii. Tina is turning 60 and you're going to Hawaii with your besties. Oh my gosh. She's going to be 4 months into her Eat Like a Bear journey at that point. She's trying to figure out how to navigate that one day of the 8-day celebration. I have a lot of opinions about how to handle a Hawaiian vacation, but who would like to offer some advice first? Anyone? Ellen, then Jackie. Go ahead, Ellen.
I was just going to say that in my experience, I don't feel like any splurge has been worth how I feel after the fact. I feel so much better if I stay with my clean eating is what I say, or stay in the groove. As Jackie says, it's never been worth it to me to really go off track. On my birthday, my exceptions were, I had a small chocolate keto dessert, which was a big splurge for me at the time. And that was okay. I didn't feel badly after that. That's my 2 cents for what it's worth.
All right, Ellen. How about you, Jackie?
I would say really know what your focus is when you go into your birthday. Is your focus going to be to eat and drink whatever, or is your focus going to be to celebrate your birthday with your friends? And I don't know if there's family, but you could change the focus instead of the food to be, something else other than food, because that's a very, you have it in front of you and it takes 10 minutes to eat it. Or how do you want to extend your celebration and feel good about yourself at the same time? So what is your focus at that time?
Yeah, like yesterday when I went for my birthday celebration with these good friends of ours, I knew going in what I was going to choose on the menu. And this was a really expensive place. Like their steak dinner is $50. And I knew that I was going to have the Cobb salad because I knew it had a lot of protein on it. So I'd probably be okay, even if the vegetables, which was the truth of the matter, it really wasn't an RBS. It was a half or a third of an RBS size. But when we walked into the place, the sign said, if you order their specific menu items, you get this particular dessert item for $1. And the item that I was going to order was one of those items on the menu. Plus, it was my birthday, so I could get one of those for free. So here I am with 3 other people who will eat that stuff. And I just said, at the end, I'm like, okay, well, guys, I get a free one, but I'm not going to eat it. So who wants it? And I get one for $1. So who wants that one? And they only had to order one instead of ordering 3 desserts. And I was just happy as a clam to sit there with my iced tea and not eat it. Yeah. Now that was my choice for this particular birthday. Now, Tina, I don't know what your choice will be. And I have made the other choice, which is I'm going to eat and drink whatever I want. And I will just tell you that sent me into about a 2-year backslide. So if that helps you at all, I'll be there. You can text me. It'll be all right.
We hear a lot about people talk about the 3-bite rule. You just have 3 bites and stop yourself at 3 bites. The problem with that, when I've done it and I have stopped, but I think if I looked at how many times it's worked, it's probably 10% or less of the time, because I mean, first of all, you can't leave the rest of the piece of cake sitting there. It only works if my daughter or somebody else is there sharing it with me. Then I can have 3 bites. Then if I do something like get on the scale the next day and I lost, then maybe my brain is going to say, oh, those 3 bites weren't a big deal. And so even the 3 bites can lead to a problem. But I know myself, and I would probably, if I'm in Hawaii, I would probably split something just because that's going to be for me a never going to do it again thing. And that's really hard for me. And so I would maybe make a plan to have a couple of bites of something that I'm sharing with somebody else. And then that's it. And I also, as hard as it would be on vacation, I would not drink alcohol because it makes me make bad decisions.
Also, something that brings up is one of the ways that I have splurged in the past on my birthday when I'm in the groove is if I'm going to a restaurant, I have exactly what I want. If it's an expensive steak, if it's something that's unusually costly that I wouldn't usually indulge in because of the money, or I have that. And I make sure it's something I really love, that I really want, that I'm excited about, but it's still within the groovy zone.
Yeah, and also use your birthday as an excuse to get exactly what you want. You tell the wait person that it's your birthday and this is what you want. And if the salad is not big enough or the vegetables not big enough, get 2. Get whatever. Eat enough. Eat enough. You want to be completely Thanksgiving full after your birthday celebration, whatever that takes.
We all need to go to Hawaii, obviously. So I've been to Kauai twice. What I did both times, and I would do again, is I ate out of farmers markets and the grocery stores. And so what you're going to find there is the tuna, the quality of tuna is unbelievable. You could find sashimi types of things in grocery stores, fresh, good quality. And so I would typically buy that. And then at the farmer's market, things like avocados like you've never seen before, unbelievable. And so avocado and the fruits, those tropical fruits like the star fruit and the dragon fruit are actually kind of lower in sugar and very hydrating. I'm sure it's some kind of like tropical, native tropical fruit thing. And that's what I would eat. And I probably wouldn't plan on losing any weight on that. I'd be in some kind of maintenance level of eating, and probably more fruit than I'd eat in a year. It's the quality of that fruit is, that's where I would splurge. And then that tuna, I have felt so good health-wise after a week or 2 of eating like that. I just want to embrace it right now. Now, if I were trying to lose weight there, I would have to probably cut those a little bit. But for a trip, that's probably what I would do is eat something like that. In fact, Tina, you're making me want to go. Can we be your besties, Tina, and join you? So, Judy, what you got?
So we're back to what we decided earlier. Tina, you need to be working literally your butt off right now, between now and then, and get yourself firmly in that groove to where you know what you need. You need to have that pre-plan. And then we all know that time that you're there, you're going to make a decision based day to day, meal to meal on what's going to happen. But you also need to have that exit plan and the re-entry plan so that you'll be where you want to be before we go on that next trip. I guess the whole morning goes down to the word plan.
100%. Thank you, Judy, for your rounding it up for us and your wisdom with that. And isn't that the case with every single day of our lives, but especially with travel, because it's always kind of a different adventure. And if you don't go in with a plan, things are going to sort of happen to you. But
I have a little saying that I always use: if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Yeah.
And it is the truth. In whatever way you're planning, whatever decisions you're making, but I really think it's key to being successful when you're traveling.
For sure. And the mindset of easier, not harder. And I think a key point, you don't have to eat like everybody else. You don't have to fold into that. Make a plan for yourself and go enjoy. Go enjoy. And enjoyment in travel doesn't have to be eating something specific or splurging like everybody else. There's so many ways to enjoy your travel. And I think the more ways that we find to enjoy, all of life that doesn't involve food is our number one winning strategy with everything, travel and not travel. So we all need to go travel, go off and be awesome, and do all the things that don't involve eating.
And eating in a way that makes you feel good is a great birthday present.
Oh yeah.
In our society, we tend to celebrate by polluting our bodies
Yeah.
and making ourselves feel really bad. Why?
It makes
Why
it
don't we not pollute our bodies and feel better and better and better? Celebrate, really celebrate.
Because it used to be an actual celebration and you didn't have that kind of stuff the rest of the time. Now we have that stuff all the time and the accessibility to it. Yeah, that's what's happening.
I've planned on being a little more decadent with my proteins for my birthday next week, but it does cost more. And so I'm thinking if I fast like a few days, the food that I would have bought to feed myself for those days, I won't be eating. So I should be able to afford my decadent protein, but it's not going to be anything off plan. It's more pricey than I would normally have.
Very good. Now we all go to the Project Hub. Thank you, ladies, for the discussion and all the plans and this idea with the exit entry plans, all of this. Wow. So we can all live our most vibrant lives and travel all over the world. See y'all in Hawaii with Tina.